Yeah, I'm Arun Maira. I wrote a book recently called Redesigning the Aeroplane While Flying. It's about reforming institutions. The idea for this book, well, it's been growing for a long time, but the occasion to write the book came when I was in the Planning Commission the last 5 years, and we had in the Planning Commission for the first time connected with the people of the country through various channels, 900 odd NGOs who represent different views in the population, the business associations, think tanks, and others. And what we found from the listening to India, the various stakeholders of India, is that there's a great mistrust of people in institutions. In the last few years, very clearly, as citizens as well as business just mistrusted government's institutions. And the civil society organizations were very mistrustful of the business institutions, as also government too. So this was a situation where institutions were being mistrusted by everybody. Now, institutions are the means by which we organize ourselves and enable our societies to produce the goodnesses that we as citizens of societies want. The institutions of the state, of course, the institutions of business have been designed to enable the economic resources of societies to be better managed and so on. And so all these institutions that we've organized to help ourselves get along are being mistrusted. So then the question came is, what should be done about it, and how could we reform the institutions? And in which the core problem came, because I have been in the past working with business leaders on their need to reform their own institutions and run their businesses better, and in the last 5 years, government, in the states as well as in the ministries. And the challenge always is for them is that, we have the present institution with its structures and with its focus on things which the external stakeholders expect us to keep focused on, and our own competencies. And we know now that this must change. What we focus on must change. Our structures perhaps must change, and our competencies too. But we can't let go what we have until we learn the new. So we are redesigning what we have, the aeroplane in which we are flying, and hopefully will discover that we entered as a propeller aircraft and flying more effectively and redesigning more effectively while flying. In 2 years' time, we'll say, hey, now we are a jet plane. So this is the challenge that leaders of institutions have. How do you redesign your institution, the very institution that you have to keep using in its present form for the results that's expected of the institution today? So that's what my most recent book is about. It goes further into details on what would you do if you were a business leader, how would you change your scorecards, your mindsets, how would you engage your own organization, the people flying with you in the plane, to help you in the redesign of the institutions, rather than being troubled by, well, things are changing and we might get thrown off, which is always a fear that people have in organizations when they find big transformation programs are being announced. And similarly, of course, for government. So previous books went somewhere in more details called Transforming Capitalism, Business Leadership to Improve the World for Everyone, which focused much more on the business change agenda. And before that, I wrote a book called Discordant Democrats, 5 Steps to Consensus, which focused very much on institutions of democracy. Yes, I would do that. Well, let's stay with the metaphor, redesigning the aeroplane while flying. And let's say we are the head of a government or the leaders of the government. And the passengers in the plane are saying to us that there's something funny in the plane, it's smelling bad and there's strange noises coming, and they are feeling insecure, unsafe in that plane. So they ask you, please do something about it. Now you're up in midair, and you know that you may have to do something about it, but you yourself are fearful about making any redesigns up there. So what you do is you start reassuring the passengers, no, don't worry, everything is all right, it will be all right, just trust us, we know, we are the experts. So this was, as you know, in the last few years, a sort of response that was coming from the government to the people to say, trust us, after all you elected us, we know, everything is all right. And that, in fact, built greater mistrust that, we are still smelling this smelly stuff, even though you said there should be no worry. It's getting worse actually, the smell around here and the strange noises. So you have to do something about it. Now in this, you do need the passengers' cooperation, because as we say, when you're flying a plane to the passengers, that you must follow in times when there is some crisis, a drill for your own safety and for the safety of everybody, and to enable the crew to do what they have to do in that emergency. So you got to carry your passengers along as maybe even participants in helping you to make the modifications that are required, because they have resource also. It could be either passive or keeping out of your way, allowing you to do, or actively helping you to make the change. So you got to engage the people in your organization or the citizens of the country, if you're the government, in helping to make the change that the institution needs. Now by institution, I'm not meaning organizations, with buildings and boards. Institutions are the ways in which societies get things done. And so therefore the citizens are very much a part of the way institutions function. In fact, it is their behavior that creates institutions or that complicates the work of other institutions to do that. So the cooperation of citizens is essential. Now why would citizens cooperate with you to achieve some goal if they don't know what the goal is? So the first thing is to say, okay, we want now an aircraft which has the following types of capabilities, because that aircraft will fly us more safely and faster to where we, the citizens, all wish to take the country. So a goal which we have to achieve, for which we all recognize that the present plane, even if it is not making a noise, is not good enough to take us there. So therefore, we are going to have to redesign these institutions. And by the way, like you said, is what are the few things we better not fiddle with while we are changing other things? And so this comes to certain red lines that we must not cross. And a very important red line in change is that nobody should get, let me use the big word, killed or so badly harmed that their dignity or their means of livelihood are taken away from them, right? So we have to find the change in which, well, something is going to have to change, many things are going to have to change, but in a way that nobody is so badly hurt. And so people have to be engaged with being able to express their fears also, that this change could result in we feeling so badly hurt, getting so badly hurt. So the first steps are, well, what's the goal? And do we all buy into it? Second is, let's listen to see what could be the risks in the process of change and to whom. And now let's devise the method of change which will produce generally more good for everybody without harming anyone too badly. And if someone is going to have to be, not benefited as much during the change as others, we'll make it up to them. And this should be known beforehand. Otherwise, the people who are feeling that they're being left out will not cooperate with the change. So it's a process of engagement of all the stakeholders for whose sake the change is being made and who are stakeholders in the change itself also. The ability to have a process of public reasoning together is the key to be able to redesign an aircraft while you're flying in a large open democratic system. Well said. Actually, there is a lot of communication going on all the time, and Dr. Anna Hazare led a whole movement. Of course, there was communication going on to the powers that be, that we are smelling stuff and it's bad stuff, and so communication is not just a top-down process, it is also a bottom-up process, and more importantly, in a democratic, diverse societies like India, it must also be a lateral process of people communicating with each other, listening to each other, because they have to make the concessions to each other with which the whole system can progress together. If you're going to leave the making of the compromises amongst various groups to someone up there, then you're giving power to someone up there over us. And most people, as they get into wanting their own freedom and the sense of their own rights, they don't like being subject to the whims and fancies of someone who's very powerful. And secondly, they do fear that they may not understand what's really going on. So therefore, we have to be laterally talking to each other and working together systematically to go forward. So which is why the previous book, Discordant Democrats, 5 Steps to Consensus, focused on this lateral communication processes the processes of deliberate democracy, which is, we have been finding, the processes which enable societies with good social cohesion and which keep progressing, like the Scandinavian societies or the Northern European, like the German societies, Canada, to keep progressing. They have built-in institutionalized processes of lateral working together amongst various stakeholder groups. So 3 parts to communication: lateral, which I think is the key actually, and we haven't paid too much attention to it in managing in our country. And the other is, of course, top-down and bottom-up. Now we are getting, as I said, the bottom-up communication happening in various ways, and we are very good at it in India, and that's good, and we must keep it up. The top-down was a question you asked, and I'm absolutely clear that the top-down communication must always acknowledge that we hear you, that you have a problem. Because that's what we want to know. Have you heard us at least? Or we'll keep banging on the door. If the pilot sitting in the cabin is going to not acknowledge that I've heard you and I'm doing something about it, then they'll keep banging the door. And then the pilot is going to say, but you're not letting me fly the thing. But why don't you just say to us that you heard us and that you're doing something, then communicate what you're doing, which reassures us, which a good pilot does. You know, we are now flying here, this is happening. And you feel included in the process of making that the change, cooperating with it. No, it fits in very well. What is corruption? Well, people talk of financial corruption, meaning they ask for money to do something, and I should not have had to pay money to do that. But then people in the country, we found, are complaining about corruption in which there's no money involved. Means the system has got corrupted, it's corroded, and things don't get done. And I, as a citizen, have a right to expect in a certain time my form so that I can do something with it. And no one took any money, but it didn't happen. And my life got badly affected. Or I had to spend so many hours going back again and reminding somebody there. So that's also corruption. It's the corrosion of systems. And in the country, people are complaining about both forms of corruption. I'm talking of the citizen's perspective. Very similarly, at the top, where big businesses have to go get permission, they also have, they suffer from both types of corruption. One is that, money being asked. In other cases, no money is asked, but the thing doesn't get done or gets reversed after it was done. So I don't know where I stand in this. So we have to fix the way the system works, keeping in mind that the system is for the sake of the customer, the citizen, the beneficiary, and not for the sake of the person who is running the system. And too much of the emphasis has been on efficiency of the department or the persons who have to provide the service. So you design it to say, look, I'm very busy. You come to me when I have the time in my process, because I must, do my things in my own orderly fashion, which may be disturbing your life a lot, but if I were to keep doing things at the time that's convenient for you, then the efficiency of myself and my department goes down. So you have to re-engineer, redesign your process so it's built around continuously keeping in mind the benefits for the persons for whose sake the process is created in the first place. As Mahatma Gandhi used to say, in a government department, all these posters, we have them still here and there, that the reason you exist is the customer who comes and not yourself. But so many people have taken it that I'm the most important person, and those people are there, the problem. Look at them, why they're crowding and coming, they are the problem. Yeah, the essence is that any process that you create or any institution that you create must start by asking itself, what's my purpose? For whose sake do I exist? And this you must keep asking yourself every year to keep reminding yourself the purpose why society has created you as an institution or created that institutional capability, and then asking for whose sake you exist. Are we serving you effectively or not? And I might share with you that this is what the Planning Commission did for the first time when I joined the Planning Commission. He said, well, what's the purpose of this Planning Commission? And then you have to say, well, it must be existing for helping some people in the country to get things done. Who are they? Well, could be the government ministries, could be the states. It must be the citizens also, for whose sake ultimately even the government is set up. So let's ask them. So this practice of checking in with yourself about why am I existing, for whom am I existing, then checking with those people, are we serving your interests effectively or not? Central thing. Then you must ensure that the processes of listening to those people are effective. Because you can put something up on your website and say for 1 month we are going to be inviting people's views on something. And then after 1 month you close it. And you've got 10 views put over there, some of which are garbled. And so 2 or 3 make some sense. And you maybe take those into account or not. And you carry on. And then someone says, you know, you're not listening to us. So no, we put it up on the website and few people did respond and we did read them. But you didn't really listen because you didn't understand how people can be approached. They're not looking for your website to see have you put out a request. You got to be much more proactive. Now, in Canada, in China even, every government officer up to beyond a certain level is appraised on 3 inputs. One is the top-down input, which is performance against the goals. The second is a peer review, that others in government laterally will comment upon the performance of this person and therefore they will take into account cooperation with themselves in achieving their goals. And the third one is a citizen's perception has to be obtained, and that is to be done by an independent agency. Now, we in the government have introduced this recently in our Indian government, and some states have gone a little further. It's very small, but that's the idea, that you have to set up processes by which citizens can easily give you the feedback that you need about the performance of your institution. Well, it's an interesting book to read. It has some nice pictures of what India is and what India could be. And those pictures are drawn by a young woman artist, and they are taken from the tales of the Panchtantra. And the reason we had them as pictures when we made those scenarios many years ago was that children were involved. Women who didn't read and write were involved, and some who were very, very literate but in other languages than English. And all citizens had to communicate together. It was felt that pictures enable great communication. So what came out of the scenarios were pictures of what we all agreed India should be and what India felt like to the citizens. So it's not just, nice economic abstract thinking. There's some simple illustrations of the ideas about what sort of aeroplane we want to be all in together and what would be the process of reforming it, redesigning it.